Hello viewers, this is Not Too Fast here. In today's video, I'll be replacing the rear brake rotor and brake pad on this 2017 Nissan Pathfinder. Now this is the first time I'm doing the brake service on this vehicle, and it currently has 45,000 miles. I'll show you all the steps involved in doing this brake service, and with some basic tools, you can also do it yourself. So let's get started. Since I'll be jacking up the back of the car, I'm going to chalk up the front wheel. Since I'll be replacing the brake on both rear wheels, I'm going to jack up the entire back end by lifting the bottom of the back subframe that you see right here. Next, place jack stands underneath the pinch weld. Have one on each side. Now slowly lower the floor jack so the car is sitting on the jack stands. Right now the car is safely on jack stands on both sides. I also left the floor jack in place. Here I'll be using an electric impact gun to remove the lug nuts. If you don't have an impact gun, what you want to do is before you jack the vehicle up is to loosen the lug nuts, then raise the vehicle, then you can remove all the lug nuts afterwards. Now I want to take a minute to talk about whether you need to remove this cap on this brake fluid reservoir when you're doing a brake service. Now some people recommend you remove the cap, put some towel underneath, so when you compress the caliper, the brake fluid will rise up and could possibly overflow. That will only happen if you or some mechanic at a shop topped off the brake fluid when it went down. Now keep in mind, when you use your brake and the brake pad wears down, the brake fluid will go down in level. But if you leave it the way it is and you don't top it off, when you compress the caliper, when you're doing the brake service, the brake fluid will rise back up to normal level. And you won't have the problem of the brake fluid overflowing and dripping all over the engine bay. So if you're not sure if anybody have topped off the brake fluid, you can remove the cap, put some towel underneath, so you won't have a mess of brake fluid overflowing when you're doing the brake service. On this vehicle, I never topped off the brake fluid, so I can just leave the cap on and continue with the brake service. Now on the brake, there are two brake pads, one on the outside, one on the inside. If you're replacing the brake pads, you do need to remove this brake caliper. It's held on by two 14mm bolts, one at the top, one at the bottom. Now for this service, if you're going to be replacing the rotor, then you'll need to remove this torque member bracket that you see right here. And this bracket right here is held on by two 19mm bolts behind here, one at the top, one at the bottom. For this service, I will be replacing both the rotor and the pads, so I'm going to go ahead and remove this entire assembly. Now on this vehicle, I do want to point out something. If you're only replacing the pads and you're removing this caliper, and you remove the 14mm bolt that you see right here, the bottom one is going to hit this sway bar right here, and you cannot remove this bolt to clean it and lubricate it. In order to remove this lower bolt, either you remove the entire assembly, including this torque member bracket, or what you can do is get another floor jack and jack up this rear wheel so it lifts up, and then you'll have access to remove this bolt. Let me take the camera to the back so I can show you these four bolts. Here's a look from the back. There's a 14mm bolt holding the caliper, one at the top, one at the bottom. If you want to remove the rotor, you need to remove this bracket that you see right here, and this held on by two 19mm bolt, one at the top and one at the bottom. While everything's in place, I'm going to go ahead and loosen the two 14mm bolts. Now remove the two 19mm bolts at the back. And here's a look at the two 19mm bolts. Remove the assembly and just rest on the top right here. Now go ahead and remove the two 14mm bolts. Now you'll notice the top bolt has a rubber bushing at the end. Make sure you keep this one at the top, and the other one at the bottom does not have the rubber bushing. Now do keep in mind, right now I'm working on the driver's side brake, and the rubber bushing is on the top. On the passenger side rear brake, the rubber bushing is actually at the bottom, so they're opposite to each other. In case you were wondering, the rubber bushing is for anti-vibration. Here are the old pads. Here's the other one. Here's a look at the brake pads. As you can see, they're worn down very low. On one of the pad, the inside pad, there is a metal tab right here. When this metal tab makes contact with the rotor, it'll make noise to let you know you need to service a brake. Now I'm going to remove this rotor. Make sure the emergency brake is not on. That's why I can spin this freely. You can use a mallet or hammer and tap on the rotor to knock it loose. Let me show you the new brake parts I'll be using. Now all these parts are made by the company Centric, and right here is the rear brake rotor. The part number on this rotor is 120-42078. For the brake pad, I'll be using Centric Posi Quiet Premium Disc Brake Pad. These are ceramic pads, and the part number is 105-09051. And these are brake pads. It comes with new shims and hardware. Now when you buy brake parts, the brake pads come in 4 pieces. So this box here will allow you to do both left and right side. But when you search for rotors, you have to buy 2 of them. And the rotors don't come in a pair. So that's something you need to keep in mind when you're buying the parts. Here's a look at the old and the new rotors. Now you do want to transfer this rubber plug from the old one over to the new one. Before I install the new rotor, I'm going to take some sandpaper, or you can use a wire brush, and just clean some of the surface here. I'll spray some brake clean to clean the surface. Now there's an extra step that you don't have to do, but around this edge right here, I'm going to put a little bit of anti-seize, not too much, just a little bit, so in the future it's easy to remove the rotor. Just spread it out with your finger. Again, put very little bit, not too much at all. Next, use brake clean to spray the surface of the rotor to remove any coating that's on it. Do the same thing for the other side. Now install the new rotor. Next, I'll compress a piston on the brake caliper. To do that, you can use a C-clamp or a tool like this. What you want to do is take one of the old brake pad, put it here, and place a tool behind it, like this. And now compress it. And you want to compress it until it's all the way at the bottom. On this bracket, go ahead and remove the old hardware clip. Get a wire brush and clean the surface. Now the brake pad comes with new hardware. Go ahead and install the new clips. What I like to do is put a little bit of synthetic brake grease on the surface. Again, just a little bit, you don't need a lot. Now you also need to clean the slide pin. Use some brake clean. Clean the old grease off. Now when it comes to lubricating a slide pin, I like to use sil-glyde because this is made of silicone and it will not swell up the rubber bushing that you see right here. If you use other synthetic grease, there's a possibility that the rubber bushing will swell up and you cannot insert this pin back into your caliper. Now because I need to install this bottom bolt before installing this bracket, I'm going to go ahead and put that bottom bolt onto this bracket right now. I'm going to leave the top bolt off right now, and I'll place the entire unit onto the rotor. Go ahead and install the two 19mm bolts. The torque spec for the 19mm bolt is 84 foot-pounds. Since I can't put a torque wrench on the bottom one, just do your best to tighten this up. Now I'll bring down the caliper. I'll put some brake grease on the end of the brake pad, just a little bit. Now install the brake pad. Do the same thing with the outside one. I'll also put a little bit of brake grease on the surface right here. Use your finger to spread the grease so it has a thin, even coating. Install a top 14mm bolt. The torque spec for the 14mm bolt is 43 foot-pounds. So this side of the brake is done. Now repeat the same procedure on the other side. I'll just finish the passenger side. After the brakes are installed, you want to go into your car, start it up, and pump the brake a couple of times. Reinstall the wheel, remove the jack stands, and then bring the car down until the tire touches the ground. Now torque all the lug nuts to 85 foot-pounds. Now after installing the brake pad, depending on the type of brake pad you purchased, Some brake pads will require you to do a bed-in process, and that involves doing a series of braking by getting the vehicle up to speed and then hitting the brake hard and coming to a stop. Now with the Centric brake pad that I installed, it does not require you to do a bed-in process. So after installing these, all you have to do is just drive normally like you normally do. If you have this vehicle and you want to do the service, I hope you found this video to be helpful. Now if you're interested in getting the Centric brake pad and brake rotor along with some of the tools used in this video, check out the links in the video description below. If you have any questions or comments, leave one in the comment section. Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching this video. To support this channel, remember to click on thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and turn on the notification bell so you get notified of new videos.